everybody begins with live action, and some of them move into animation, and as did you. Did you find any significant differences, or what are some of the differences between
Yeah.
writing live action and animation?
Um, the biggest difference in terms of on the page or as a writer, there's a lot of similarities if you're working for Marvel or some of the really, really big movies. But
Hmm.
in terms of on the page, the first is that as my husband once said to me when I first started, nobody wants to animate mouths moving. Like that's not fun. That's not why they became animators. So it's your story really has to be expressed in behavior versus people talking. So if you're in television or the stage, a lot of your narrative is being expressed through dialogue and people having conversations. Um, Film in general, but especially animation, is really expressed through the behavior that people are and the actions that people are taking. Sometimes they're saying the opposite of what the action they're taking. That's always fun. But so the first thing is it's really got to be very active, and when you're a writer in animation, if you've got a scene that will work for animation, because when you hand it out to the storyboard artists, if they look very depressed at having to draw it, that means you didn't really push it far enough into behavior or have enough fun with it for them to draw and be excited to draw.
Mm.
And if you are pitching it to them and they can't wait to draw it, you're like, okay. So you're very much in collaboration with the artists and getting immediate feedback on your pages in terms of the medium that you're in. The other difference is there really does have to be a layer of humor. Now, with Inside Out, it went all the way to slapstick, right? It's almost
Hmm.
like Looney Tunes
Literally.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but there really is, they really do, they'll count laughs. That really is a part of. Now, again, if you're doing anime or something that may not be what's,
Hmm.
but in general, at least in American animation, they really do want it to be fun. They also want those emotional moments. Again, you have to get those emotional moments, which is the underpinning of everything from behavior and choice. You can have a moment where Joy has a meltdown, uh,
Hmm.
and that's going to be dialogue heavy, but um, they're going to be in a very active, beautiful place. I promise you. They're always going to ask why animation. If it can be shot live action, why are they making it? What is the world? What is the place that makes it animated? That we would need animation and the art of animation to express the story. And the fourth is just you are working with artists all the time. So that's amazing, and it has challenges. It's amazing because there's this constant feedback loop happening. So you write a scene and suddenly they're designing characters that might get thrown out later, but you're constant. It's all more like TV that way, that there's a flow going constantly. The
Mhm.
drawback of that is those artists have the ability to change whatever they want. So you could hand them pages, and when you see what they've drawn, they've changed it. And you just have to roll with that because they just drew 250 drawings. And
Hmm.
you don't want to be like the, mom in the corner shaking your finger. You have to kind of roll with it and talk about the story. I always go back to the story, why that may not work for the whole story. It might be a fun sequence, but it breaks the whole story. Or they
Hmm.
make it better, which happens too, which they make it much, much better. So it's a constant loop. It's a constant collaborative process.
So how did you manage to translate something such as an abstract thing, such as emotion, into a physical manifestation of a character? Like you,
Hmm.
Um, there's a wonderful book called The Art of, and it's they come out for every Pixar movie, and The Art of Inside Out One really is amazing because it shows you all the iterations in the art of them doing that process that you're talking about. So Pete Docter did a tremendous amount of research on emotions with Dacher Keltner and other people, and the wheel of emotions. I think it's like 52 that breaks down to 24, and I think when he first started, before I came on, he did have like 15 emotions because that was what the research was saying. But that was just way unwieldy.
Hmm.
So he broke it down into the five, which is kind of the core off of which the wheel spins out.
Hmm.
Um, but so what they did is once they chose their emotions, originally they had them as names, Susan, and but then they quickly realized, oh, They should be called their names. That's all that they just are their emotion. The dinner sequence is actually Pete Docter's proof of concept. Because there was a lot of questions of if you're bouncing between people's heads, how will you know whose head you're in? And he had to prove that he could be at a dinner sequence and jump into 3 people's heads and you would always know where you are. It's why people ask me, why are mom and dad's emotions single sexes and Riley's are multi-sexed? And it's, well, because he was just doing a proof of concept and he thought, well, maybe, you know, if all of dads have mustaches and all of moms are women, you'll know whose head you're in. Like there's not there. That's the thinking. Like everybody gets into these kind of theories and it's like, well, no, it's very practical. He had to prove you could jump around and see whose head you're in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it really was the challenge of the writing. And then there's a tremendous amount of art thinking going into those emotions. Sadness is shaped like a teardrop. Joy is shaped and colored like a starburst. Fear is a live wire.
Yeah.
Anger, like they're really, really doing a lot of work on the visual of those characters. But as a writer, the biggest challenge of writing those characters is that it's very, in certain ones, especially like disgust or envy, it's very, or ennui, it's very easy for them to go one note, right? And for that just constantly be anger, be anger, be anger, be anger, be anger. And that's why it was really fun in Inside Out 2 to have more time to spend with them, the characters we love, to see another side of anger. You know, he doesn't always want to have to be the angry guy, or Joy can get mad. So especially in Inside Out 1, us finding those boundary lines of, and what I figured out was, you know, just as using Joy as an example.
Yeah.
When I first came on the movie Inside Out 1, they had 2 screenings so far, and they had the 5 emotions and places they wanted to go, but they didn't have a story. And John Lasseter said to me, nobody likes joy. You have to fix that. And what I figured out is it's because Joy was using her joy for herself and not for Riley. It was very ego based. Like, I want a wall of blue marble of yellow memories because of me, and then that's not going to fly, especially in a kids movie. And then what I figured out was, and this is just to answer your question of how you do this, Joy's, if when that goofball island fell, which if you really look at it cinematically, what he's doing and what we had to do is it's not just a thing falling. You're seeing flashes of that little girl, so that you really feel you are losing a piece of your kid. And if Joy just turned around and went, "Don't worry, I know what to do," you'd be like, "Oh my God, I hate you. I hate you." Because she had to be vulnerable. She had to make mistakes. She had to be like, "Oh my God, I just lost a piece of my kid." She had to feel that hit, and she had to feel vulnerable, and she had to feel out of control. And oh my God, I just made a mistake and I don't know what to do, right? It's that psychologically her default is to go to Joy. When she gets overwhelmed and vulnerable, she will default into Joy, right? So when that island goes down, you see on her face, oh my God, and the complete panic and vulnerability. And then she goes, no, 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 it's okay, you guys. It's okay. It's okay. I know what to do. I know what to do. And then you love her because her joy is helping Riley. Her joy is about, no, don't worry, guys. This vulnerable, horrible feeling, where my joy is going to figure out what to do. So it's really trying to figure out those layers of the characters, right? And how, like sadness, how do you make sadness she is the villain in a way of Inside Out 1. She is the one that you don't want her to touch the core memories. First of all, I have to make the audience understand and agree, which is a very big part of any movie. You have to make the audience in Act 1 agree with your main character's view. And she, I have a whole seminar on it. I have to convince you that sadness should not touch the controls, but she still has to be cute and entertaining. And like, how do you do that? Like, it's easy to make them arch in one note, but as soon as sadness, when I was writing her, she just laid down. I was like, oh, there she is. There she is. So a lot of the work of the emotions was figuring out how to layer them up and let them still be consistently themselves.
The question is about Inside Out 2. And so I'm also a person who likes a lot of action in movies. And my project with the lab also has a martial arts practitioner who's coming of age. So in Inside Out 2, the sport of ice hockey is a main element and in driving the plot and the movie compared to in Inside Out 1 where we have the move to San Francisco and Riley adapting to it as the plot element, right? So I was wondering what was the thought process behind this choice of ice hockey and the camp for the plot setting, and how did you and the creators team uh, come to an agreement that this will be what we'll pick as the setting instead of like high school life or like even romance, teen romance for that matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Our very first screening, we did have her in high school because we wanted to try it. You know, we wanted to see, okay, what would that be? It feels very teen to go to high school. I think we had her in a talent show or something, and we knew it wouldn't ultimately be a talent show, but often you're very early drafts. You're just trying stuff. Even if you're like, I don't think this is right, but there's something here that we need to go figure out, which ended up being the girl friendship that breaks. We found that in the talent show. So even if you throw things out, you have discovered really important things that you're like, oh, that is what's happening to Riley. That there's a cooler group of girls that are older, and there's your old friends, and that break that we got in the first screening in terms of this talent show that she was going to do the routine now with the other girls. But high school felt a well tread. You quickly started to fall into tropes of the cool mean girls. We never wanted to do Mean Girls. Again, love that movie, but it's been done. It's been done. So high school just felt like a place of traps, right? Of how do you make this different? And there certainly are, like the Pen 15 is a wonderful show that shows middle school and a completely different way. And so people have done it, and I'm sure people will continue to do it. But we were like, this that's not that fun. And and then we moved her back towards hockey, and you just sit in a room and you start spitballing. What could it be, right? And so in terms of camp, we needed a place. It solved a lot of challenges. One is you can't make a movie with a girl like this on her phone, right? And that all the social challenges are happening through text and social media. Even though that's very real, it ain't, like I said, that's not a fun movie. That's not behavior. That's not expressing through behavior your story. So we needed someone to take her phone. And we needed to isolate her from her parents. She can't just go home and talk to mom and dad. So a camp, we had a whole scene where literally they're making them give them phones and putting them in those envelopes so that you knew she does not have a phone. Didn't ultimately need it, but sometimes you have to write these things so people understand what you're doing, and then you can find other ways to do it. So we needed to isolate her. We needed all of the social interactions to be very present and happening to her, which is what my high school life was like before there were phones. And also hockey, like the part that we liked about the talent show was it's skill based. And so we were like, okay, what is this camp? Well, like there has to be a goal in the camp. It can't just be, let's go to a fun hockey camp. Because again, what is the propulsive drive of the main character? What do they want? And so she wants to get on a team, and she wants that team to accept her and think she's great, right? So that starts to create the propulsion for her choices. That want creates the drive of the plot. I just did a whole new seminar on want, because so many emerging writers don't understand that a plot is driven by an external want. And if you don't have it, the thing just fizzles out eventually. Unless it's slice of life, which is totally different.
Thank you so much for this session. I have two questions. I'm going to keep it quick because they might be related to one another. One is the very infamous Act 2 of a screenplay, right? And I'm always curious to hear from experienced writers what their 2 cents might be for that. And the second one, because I feel like the answer is also somewhere there, is how do you keep yourself from sometimes not getting bored with your own characters? Because if that is happening while you're writing the screenplay, I feel like there is a specific problem that sometimes I miss getting a finger on. So,
well, if you're bored with them, so will your audience be. So that's a really good indicator. I don't
Mm.
think it's an indicator maybe to stop your draft, because maybe you have to get to the end to figure out why you're bored with them. You know, often people stop wherever they are because they're like, well, I'm bored. And it's like, well, okay, but the dreamer hasn't finished this dream. It hasn't taken you. And sometimes when you're in early drafts, you're going through cul-de-sacs and you're like, oh, now I'm bored. But if you stop, you're just going to start over and go back into cul-de-sacs because your brain hasn't actually finished the dream, and you've got to let it finish. So my advice always is, if you're in an early draft, you're like, I'm bored of this character, and just keep going, and then, but start pushing her. It's just paper. Like, just be like, okay, I'm bored. Well, what's the craziest thing that could happen right now? What is the craziest thing she could do right now? I don't care if it's in your outline. I don't care about any of that. You're writing now, you're in the dream. Push the dreamer and then keep going to get to your third act, and you're going to find something, right? Because you're pushing past. If your brain is saying bored, it's probably trying to get you to stop. There's probably something very juicy bubbling right underneath that boredom, that if you push through and push the main character into behavior, I don't care if it's contradictory, it doesn't matter. It's just paper now. You're now into a writing exercise to get to the end. I would just really push her now to see what she's going to tell you, and she's going to tell you why she's not boring. So in terms of that, that's what I would do about that. I would really just push it and keep going. But yes, if you're bored, the audience is going to be bored, and there could be many, many, many reasons for that. But ultimately, she will tell you if you push her. Probably she's inactive and she's not making the choices of the movie. Which again, you're not going to get an actor to do that anyways, because female actors don't want to just watch everybody else do everything. In terms of Act 2, which I guess it probably does connect to being bored. My guess is you're not challenging her enough. You guys as writers should give your main character such hard problems in Act 2 that you don't know how they're going to get out of it. You literally have no idea what the hell she's going to do right now to get out of this. Because if you don't know, I won't know when I watch it either. In terms of structurally, so that's just a great writing exercise for both your Act 2 and boredom, is just start, say, okay, I'm going to take an hour and I'm going to write 3 scenes of the hardest thing I can think happened to this character, and what does she do? Sometimes I will stop and just start doing random shit to try to see what's going on and shine a light on it. In terms of structurally and Act 2 to me is, you present in Act 1 your character who has a certain mindset of beliefs, which we can talk about. It's all in Inside Out 2. Your character believes certain things about the world and themselves. And then Act 2 is you're reprogramming them, basically, right? So the easiest one is Nemo. From that first little moment in Nemo, you see 2 beliefs are born that we as the audience totally agree with. It's really dangerous off this reef, and this little fish, he can't handle it. He didn't save them. And so he picks up that baby and says, I will never let anything happen to you. There's his drive, right? This is horrible. I can't help. So that you're always in his emotional point of view and he's not just annoying, right? Now, Act 2 is, well, is that true? Because, yeah, there's scary shit out here and there's sharks, but you handled it. And there's also beautiful things out here like turtles. So you're literally taking that belief. And if you really got to take somebody from A to Z, like the other reason you might have a boring Act 2 is you're not doing a big enough transformation. So you don't have a lot to do. You actually have a 2-act idea, and you're just like throwing shit in, trying to stretch it out like taffy. So the one thing is, like, really pull your main character's poles apart, right? Like you can do it in reverse. Coppola's, movie is, The Godfather. He comes to that wedding and says, that's my father, Kate, that's not me. And at the end, he's his dad, and literally has them kissing the ring and closing the door on her face. Like, how the hell do you get somebody to go from that to that? You're going to need a lot of Act 2. Like, that's Act 2, right? The other thing is Act 2 is a plan. It's whatever their plan is to get their goal. The yellow brick road is Act 2, right? Everybody talks about the tornado and the munchkins and the stuff, but in the original movie, the Act 2 is the yellow brick road. So what's your yellow brick road? What is their plan to get what they want, and what's in conflict to it. Maybe you don't have enough conflict. Maybe you're not really giving them really hard problems to overcome in Act 2.